The background of the poem Rape of the Lock centers on a true social drama involving two prominent Catholic families in 18th century England. The incident occurred when the handsome young nobleman, Lord Peter, became infatuated with Arabella Fermor, a celebrated beauty of the time. Without her consent, Peter impulsively and secretly cut off one of her famous, perfectly arranged locks of hair as a trophy. Arabella Fermor was deeply offended, viewing the act as a serious insult to her reputation and beauty, which led to a major rift and social feud between the two families. The entire community was swept up in the gossip, prompting their mutual friend John Carroll to approach the poet Alexander Pope, commissioning him to write a humorous poem that would mock the triviality of the event and encourage both families to reconcile through laughter. Let's see the important characters in the poem. Belinda is the beautiful and fashionable heroine of the poem, whose lock of hair is the object of the Baron's desire. The Baron, the aristocratic young man whose obsession with Belinda leads him to cut her hair, sparking the poem's central conflict. Ariel is Belinda's guardian sylph, a spirit who tries to protect her from an unspecified grave danger. Umbriel is a mischievous gnome who worsens the conflict by fueling Belinda's despair with sorrow and tears from the cave of spleen. The poem begins with the beautiful young woman Belinda sound asleep. Ariel, her tiny guardian spirit known as a sylph, visits her in a dream. Ariel explains that his job and the job of all sylphs is to protect young, pure women. He makes this sound a little dramatic, hinting that sylphs might secretly guide or trick humans. He is worried because he senses that a major disaster is about to strike that day, though he is not sure what it will be. He simply wants her in the dream to beware of man. Belinda eventually wakes up. She immediately starts her elaborate process of getting ready for the day's social events. Her maid Betty and a crowd of invisible sylphs help her arrange her hair and apply makeup. This dressing process is treated by the poet like a very serious, almost religious ceremony performed at an altar, her dressing table. This shows how incredibly important her looks and especially her two famous locks of hair are to her and her social world. Looking absolutely magnificent, Belinda sails from London up the Thames River to Hampton Court Palace, where the social elite are gathering. Her two styled locks of hair are the highlight of her beauty, drawing everyone's attention. The Baron, Lord Peter in real life, sees the locks and is determined to steal one, believing that possessing it will make him famous forever. We learned that earlier that morning, before sunrise, he had performed a solemn yet ridiculous ritual to ensure his success. He burned a pile of his old love letters, French novels, and other love tokens as a sacrifice to the god of love. Meanwhile, Ariel, still anxious about the approaching disaster, gathers his entire army of thousands of tiny sylphs. He explains his feeling of dread, but his examples of possible disasters are quite funny and trivial. The worst thing he suggests might be Belinda losing her virginity, but it could also be something small like staining a new dress, losing a piece of jewelry, or her dog dying. He then assigns specific jobs to his spirits, instructing different sylphs to guard her fan, her diamond earrings, her watch, and most importantly, the two precious locks of hair. The whole group follows Belinda as she arrives at the palace. The lords and ladies arrive at Hampton Court ready for a day of mingling and gossiping. Belinda sits down to play a fashionable card game called Ombre. Using the language of real war, the poem treats the card game like a serious strategic battle. With a little unseen help from her sylphs, Belinda starts the game well and seems to have the upper hand. The Baron fights back fiercely, bringing Belinda close to defeat, but at the very last moment, she manages to win the final trick and celebrates her victory triumphantly. After the game, coffee is served. The strong smell of the coffee seems to energize the Baron and reminds him of his plan. Clarissa, a lady in the party, takes out a pair of ornamental scissors treated like a knight's sword and hands them to the Baron. A host of sylphs rush to defend the lock, trying to tug at Belinda's hair and earrings to make her move. She looks around 3 times, but the Baron easily evades her notice. At this critical moment, Ariel manages to look into Belinda's private thoughts and sees that she has feelings for a human man, earthly lover. Since she is not as perfectly innocent as he believed, Ariel decides she is no longer worthy of his complete protection. He and other sylphs give up their mission. The Baron quickly snaps the scissors shut, cutting off the lock. The Baron shouts in victory, and Belinda screams in absolute horror and rage. Belinda is now completely overcome with sorrow and fury over the loss. Umbriel, a grumpy gnome, a spirit dedicated to bad moods, flies down to a gloomy allegorical place called the Cave of Spleen. Spleen was the 18th century term for everything from bad temper to hysteria and melancholy. In this ugly, surreal underworld, Umbriel finds grotesque figures of bad moods, chronic illnesses, and hysterical women. He asks the Queen of Spleen to increase Belinda's emotional torment. She agrees and gives him a bag filled with foes of female lungs, sighs, sobs, and dramatic passions, and a small vial containing tears, soft sorrows, and melting griefs. Umbriel flies back to the earth and finds Belinda with her friend Thalestris, who is also hugely distressed by the insult of Belinda's reputation. Umbriel promptly tips the bag of passions over them, making them both wildly angry. Thalestris then sends her timid boyfriend Sir Plume to confront the Baron, but he only makes a comical, ineffective challenge. Umbriel then pours the vial of tears over Belinda, who bursts into a long, dramatic lament, wishing she had never left home and complaining that her shame will last forever. Despite the intense theatrics, Baron remains completely unmoved. The final canto opens with Clarissa's famous sensible speech. She argues that the entire feud is foolish. She points out that beauty is temporary and women should focus their energy on good sense and good humor, which lasts for longer. However, her sensible advice is completely ignored by the angry crowd. Belinda calls her friends to action, and a chaotic mock heroic battle breaks out among the young ladies and gentlemen. They use fans, snuff, and fierce glass as weapons. Belinda rushes the Baron and uses a pinch of snuff with help of gnomes to temporarily disable him, fulfilling his earlier joke that the lock could only be taken from him if air stopped filling his nostrils. She then threatens him with a hairpin. She demands that he return the lock. But the lock is nowhere to be found. It has miraculously vanished during the fighting. The narrator assures the readers that the lock was not lost but has ascended into the heavens. Just like the hair of the ancient Queen Bernice, it turns into a brilliant new star that will be watched by astronomers and common Londoners alike. This means the lock has achieved immortality, and Belinda's beauty will be famous forever, long after she grows old.